Greetings and peace. I hope you and yours are doing well today, wherever you might be watching this from. Now, the title of today's video will be The Teachings of Zoroastrianism and its Similarity with Freemasonry. Now, Zoroastrianism is a faith that has always intrigued me because it was the first monotheistic faith that has existed before any of the three main Abrahamic religions. And its principles and its values of good over evil and good winning over evil had me always related to Freemasonry and the basic tenets and teachings of that. And I was curious that there was no other work out there relating to this subject, and I wanted to make it, not just to honor a brother of mine who practices Zoroastrianism, but also to educate others about the faith and the good similarities that it shares with all of the other faiths that are out there and how it all relates to the Masonic path. So I thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy what I have to offer. This is the founder of the Zoroastrianism religion. His name was Zoroaster, and he's believed to be an ancient Iranian Persian prophet, religious reformer, and a leader in spirituality who founded the religion. And he's believed to be somebody that, let's say, he came in contact with the divine or almighty God, and he was able to reveal these revelations of how he wanted the people to be, about thinking good, doing good, and knowing good. He lived up to about 77 years old, and he's been described as somebody that has built a foundation for ethics, for being a rationalist, and the first monotheist, and the concepts of heaven and hell, judgment and death, and free will, all of those things before any of the other main Abrahamic religions came to light. And the concepts of free will and always knowing good, doing good, being good, relate Zoroaster to the Masonic philosophy and Masonic teachings that are out there. And what Zoroastrianism does is that it teaches you that in your life you always have to be good in all that you do, because that's what the divine wants you to do. Now, you have the free will to do right and wrong, and that will ultimately decide your outcome once this life is over, but what they enforce is that you always have to be good. And this is the religion that, once Zoroastrianism came to light, this became like the main religion in ancient Persia at that time. Now, there's like no, I guess, birth record for him. It doesn't say like how he was born and into what circumstances he was born into. It just shows a prophet that came to light to help help his people become one with the Creator. And most of about his life is known through their volume of sacred law, which is the Avesta, if I'm saying that correctly. And the Avesta is a collection of texts that teach you what Zoroaster wanted his people to do. And a lot of people relate him to Cyrus the Great and Darius the First, because they believe that he was I guess a part of that lineage that wanted to see his people succeed and to see them prosper, the Persian people, from bringing them from darkness to light, and to help them in all that they did. This is the symbol of the Zoroastrian religion, and I remember back when I was in middle school, I used to see this symbol when I played the Prince of Persia video games on the PlayStation 2, where the prince would have a tattoo of the Ahura Mazda on his side, which would be like a winged figure and a benevolent figure that would be out there to conduct justice and triumph over evil. Now, Zoroastrianism is one of the world's oldest practiced monotheistic religion, and it's also it focuses on dualism and the cosmology of good and evil. And it shows that the ultimate the conquest of evil will happen, that they're basically teaching you that with your free will and what's destined to happen, good is always destined to win. Like, no matter what happens, you just have to do good, be good, know good. and then your thoughts, your actions, and the ultimate, the free will of good winning over evil is what will be shown in the end, which is also in similarity to the Masonic path, where a Mason, his job is to bring light to the world, and there will be elements of darkness that come up against him, but he's destined to win, just like the story of Ahura Mazda triumphing over evil through his free will. And Zoroastrianism basically came into recorded history like around the 5th century BCE, and it probably goes back further than that, but I guess like in terms of like recorded history, which you can source back to, it was around the 5th century BCE, and their people and their faith, it extended all the way from Persia at the time, Iran, all the way to Pakistan, India, and all the way to these other different places, which even in India they still have their descendants known as the Parsi people, or the Iranis. A lot of people in India have the Irani last name. And Zoroastrianism might have also influenced religions like the Second Temple Judaism, the Gnosticism in Christianity, Greek philosophy, and Islam, the Baha'i faith, and Buddhism. So this existed before any of that, and it's all relative to the Masonic path as well. And it's an honor for me as a Muslim to let the Zoroastrianisms know that I respect your faith and your right to exist, and I acknowledge you, because that's what we're doing. We're walking each other home, and that's what we have to do. And there's a lot of things in their faith that I like and can relate to my Masonic path as well. This is the basic output of the Zoroastrianism faith, or their basic tenets, you could say, which are good deeds, good thoughts, and good words. Now, the basic tenet of the Zoroastrianism, or the one that follows it, is that there's a major spiritual war going on between the forces of benevolent and malevolent, good and evil. So once they come to that realization, they know that there's a god of wisdom and light that they have to follow, which is Ahura Mazda, and then the evil one, which is Angra, and who's known as Angra Mainyu, if I'm saying that. So that means that basically, with your free will, you decide who wins this spiritual war. It's either going to be Ahura Mazda or Angra Mainyu, but ultimately, this outcome has already been decided, and you have to be the conduit of that energy, because they have to be the conduit of that energy to bring those realizations to light. And know that with this short life that you've been given, just be good to yourself and other people, and that will make sure that Ahura Mazda always triumphs over evil, just like how a Mason triumphs over evil and his resistance to wicked and reverence to God and all of those things, which makes this path one and the same with Zoroastrianism and Freemasonry, with doing good, thinking good, and just implementing your goodness and light to the world with whatever possibility that you can. These are the basic tenets of the Zoroastrianism faith, which are also in alignment with Freemasonry and what the Masonic path teaches you. Now, the first one, there has to be a belief in a supreme being, which is Ahura Mazda, the god of light and wisdom. Going down, the list, they have Asha, which is truth and righteousness. You exemplify the attributes of Almighty God, because God is righteous, and that means you have to be an exemplification of those values as well in your quest to make sure that good triumphs over evil in your dealings with self, your family, your workplace, others, whatever situation your life throws you in. You have to be that exemplification of Asha. Second one is Vohumanu, which means that God has a good mind and will never choose evil. And that means you're always supposed to be in a state of purity. And it teaches the followers of this faith that when you're in a situation where, let's say, you're being offered fame and fortune or things like that to sell out yourself, your family, or just basically the concept of selling your soul, you will never do that, because you will always follow the path that will teach you to do right and not to do anything wrong for anyone's like downfall or for your personal gain. You will always do what's right, even if it doesn't benefit you. And that's what Wahumanu means, is that just like how the Master Mason triumphs over temptation and evil, so too shall you in your path, by making sure that you never choose evil or do evil in your life. The third one is Spenta Arameti, which means that God loves all of his creation, meaning pure devotion, sincerity, love, caring, kindness, and love in all that you do. That means that you don't hate anybody based on what they look like, where they come from, or what they believe in. Because just like how God made you with your uniqueness and your abilities and your purpose, that other person across from you has been given that same value. And you can go outside, you can sit on the train or go to work. You see people of all complexions working together. They all have bills to pay. They have families, heartbreaks, tears, happiness, just like you do. And we're not different from each other. And we can't let the aspects of society tell us that we don't have to like somebody based on what they believe or what they look like. And that's another common tenet that this faith has with Freemasonry, is that we're all brothers and we're all here to love each other, and we're all here to do the work of God. So that's one of the tenets that really stood out to me, was Spenta Arameti. The next one is Kshatra Varya, power to do good always. And this means that if you have the power to help someone or to bring any kind of justice to fruition, then you do it. Because that's what you've been placed on this earth here to do, is to make sure that good always wins and triumphs over evil. If you have the power to help somebody, you go walking down the street, somebody needs help, you help them out, okay, good. That's what we're here to do, is we're here to help each other and to help the creations. Because if we help each other, then we're helping our Creator by making sure that this aspect of good over evil wins always. The next one is Huravatat, which is perfection. And that means completion and health and striving towards perfection. Just like how Master Mason has to keep chipping away at his rough ashlar to make sure that he's that perfect stone, and he becomes that perfect ashlar in his work to remove all of his flaws and lower nature and animalistic urges in nature and his other passions that he must subdue. And you must keep working towards that perfection with each aspect of self-improvement that you need to work on a daily basis. The next one is Amiritat, which is immortality. And it shows that we never truly die. We're here in this physical vessel now, which our soul occupies, but once our work here is over, then our energy gets transferred or converted into something else. Then we have another purpose that we need to fulfill as life and time goes on. And that's the same with the Masonic path, is that the immortality of the soul. We're always going to exist in some way, shape, or form, whether it's energetically or in somebody's memory or somebody's heart. We will always continue to exist no matter what. This is the volume of the Sacred Law of the Zoroastrianisms, and I think it's known as the Avestas, the text of the Avestas. And the main tenets that the Avestas teach you is that the role of humanity is to implement their good deeds and fight for what is righteous. And in order for them to do that, there's a certain guideline that they have to follow in the Avestas, which is good actions, spreading love and kindness, healing the sick, and sharing your values to others. So you can visit the sick, make sure if there's somebody in your neighborhood that needs food, you help them out. If there's any way that you can spread love and kindness to whoever comes your way, you can do that. And good speech is also important, which tells you that you always have to speak the truth, never lie, or never bear any falsehoods against anyone, and always be in a manner which your words that come out of your mouth are powerful spells. Words are spells. And that anything that comes out of your mouth is always designed to be into the benefit of others, because God has to be in that righteous mindset of the tenets of the Ahura Mazda, of good winning over evil. So there's nothing negative or something with a negative tone that should come out of your mouth. And good thoughts, which is not judging people by their faith or their skin color or whatever that they look like or socioeconomic status. You always should be in a desire to do good and not plotting bad events or thinking that I'm going to throw this person under the bus to get where I'm at today. It's not going to help. As you see that those people who did that their whole lives with the recent COVID-19 outbreak, is that they're sitting at home just like everyone else. What did they get out of it? All those years of plotting and preparing and getting ahead. They're home just like everyone else. They don't have any power. And it teaches us that if we don't comply with nature will put mankind in time out. And our pride, our ego, our arrogance, our getting over on other people, all that is going to come right back. It's going to fall right down on us like 100-pound dumbbell right on your head. And it's going to put you in your place. So we must do good and be good and do good in all the ways that we possibly can. And if we see anything that's going on wrong, don't turn your back and say ignore the problem, because that is going to come back to you. If you got the power to do something, then the value of Kshatra Veri, of the tenets of Ahura Mazda, teach you that you need to speak out against it. All in relevance, to the Masonic path, which tells you to that, you must have resistance against the wicked in any way that you possibly can. This is the logo of the Grand Lodge of Iran in exile, which I believe has now relocated to Massachusetts and California in the United States. And even the logo of the Grand Lodge of Iran is based on the teachings of Zoroastrianism and Ahura Mazda, which tells you that this path is like basically one and the same. You can be a Zoroastrianism or you could be a Mason. Both teach you the same values of doing good, being good, and implementing goodness in all that you do, with this spiritual war of good over evil, and what mankind must accomplish in order to move to that level. Now, this is a jewel I believe is being kept in good conditions by the United Grand Lodge of England, and I wanted to show this, that the Grand Lodge of Iran, it still exists today, but they're operating under Massachusetts and California. So they're still here, and they're still respecting the code of the Ahura Mazda. This is one of my favorite quotes from Zoroaster, the founder of the faith. And he says, "He who sows the ground with care and diligence acquires a greater stock of religious merit than he who could gain by the repetition of 10,000 prayers." Now, I really love this one because I've seen people in life who might go to church on Sundays or they pray 5 times a day, but inside their heart, some of them were not good people. They were plotting against others. They had envy and jealousy towards others. They were hating on others, and that's not Almighty God. Because if that's the type of person you are, then you can pray 1,000,000 times a day. You severed that connection with the Most High, and your prayers will never reach that source. And that's what Zoroaster is teaching you, is that it's not about how many times you're praying or you're going to this place or you're going to that place. If you don't have care and diligence in your heart and in your very being and demeanor and attitude, then all of that is meaningless. And I, as a Muslim, agree with Zoroaster 110% on this aspect. So I wanted to share this with you. Just like in Freemasonry, where you have the symbolism of the double-headed eagle, dualism in Zoroastrianism is also implemented, which means things can go either way, depending on your free will and how you decide to take the approach on things, which is the existence of the spiritual war between good and evil, and the cosmic opposing forces of dark and light that are in an ongoing battle within each other and within the human mind and heart. So this also concludes the battle between Ahura Mazda and Angra Mainyu, which is evil, with Ahura Mazda ultimately triumphing over this evil. And then morally, it's the opposing forces within the mind, where you have these voices inside of your head and heart that try to deviate you away from your path and take you away from the path that you're supposed to walk. And it's same with Masonry. Once you walk that path of righteousness, you'll have those voices that try to discourage you or try to make you go away. But you must always know that I know who I am, what I stand for, and what I need to do. Once you know those things, then those voices whispering in your ear trying to make you give up or trying to make you go away will never be able to win over you. And that's your free will that will decide that. And ultimately, which goes to this last bullet point that's listed here, is that man has the choice of good and evil leads to hell, good leads to heaven. Which what the Zoroastrians teach is that if you resonated with God and you resonated with all of those values of love, justice, and purity, then you will move on to that next level. But if you spent your life hurting others and degrading others and putting others down, then you're going to get downgraded to some other place that's out there, which religions call heaven and hell. So that depends on how you view that in your mind. So that teaches you that Zoroastrianism is a faith that, just like Masonry, Masonry's not a faith, but they share these values with each other, is that you are given this free will, but it's up to you to decide how you want to follow this path, because there's a spiritual price to pay for everything. You can be walking a path that tells you that good is going to win over evil, but that's not going to work for you if you decide with your free will not to do that. So with this short time that's been given to you on this world, please use it wisely to make sure that you are doing good. Because in the afterlife, it's like what you did in this world will ultimately decide your outcome in that aspect. The diaspora of the Parsis from Persia that went to India is extensive, as you see that each province and state in India has basically thousands of Parsis that exist and are a part of the Indian culture now, where most of them, I believe, go by the last name Irani, which tells of their Iranian origins. And there's a lot of actors in Bollywood also that have the last name Irani, and they're Parsis, they're Persians. And the diaspora, when they were being persecuted in Iran, shows how the Parsis still exist. They exist in India, they exist in the US, they exist even in Iran today in smaller communities, and they exist in other places as well. And a lot of people have a misconception that they are fire worshippers, but they don't worship the fire. They just respect the elements of the earth, like air, fire, like water and earth and all of those things, because in order for you to get closer to the divine, you must also respect the elementals that come along with it. So they're mastering an aspect that I haven't seen in others. I thank you very much for watching. All images, thumbnails used in this presentation were retrieved from public domain searches and protected under the copyright laws of fair use, education purpose. My videos are always non-profit and activism, because my purpose is always to put education and awareness out there. If any questions or comments, please email me at salmonshake911@gmail.com. Thank you. Life is indeed beautiful. My love to all of you and your families, and please stay safe in these changing and challenging times. And I look forward to seeing you all again when I make my next video. Thank you, and have a beautiful day. All rights reserved.